Lai, lai, lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, lai, lai. Lai, 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 lai. Ma tovu o ha'alecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tov. Good morning, Rabbi. O ha'alecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Lai, lai, lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, lai, lai. Lai, 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 lai. Ma tovu o ha'alecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu o ha'alecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Boker Tov, it's so nice to see all of you here together. And hi in your classrooms. We're excited to have you all too. And it was really wonderful to be together. And we just sang about how lovely Jacob's tents are and all the dwelling places of Israel, that they can dwell together. And we are going to stand up real tall, so raise your arms up real big. And pull yourselves out of your seats, stretch, stretch, stretch. And we'll stand for the Baruch Hu on page 2, our call to worship.
Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, la, lai, 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 la, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, la, lai, 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 lai. We're going to bow together. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai, Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Okay, and we'll take one last big stretch and reach our arms straight up to the sky. And we'll put our hands over our eyes so we can really focus on God being one for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
And now we'll take a seat for the Ve'ahavta at the bottom of page 2.
You shall love the Lord your God with all your soul and with all of your might. Hold on tight as you go, teach them what you know. Teach them as they
And now we're going to turn to the Micha Mocha. It's on the bottom of page 3. And have you ever gotten to a point where you had something big in front of you, a big thing that was standing in your way, and then you were able to cross to the other side into something really great? Think about that for a minute, and we'll think about the freedom that the Israelites had when they crossed the Sea of Reeds.
Ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la, la la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la. Mi chamocha ba'eli madonai, mi chamocha netar ba'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'eli madonai. Mi chamocha netar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilu oseh Nora oseh Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Let's do the likud together. Ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la.
And we're going to stand up now, big and tall, big and strong, out of our seats. And we're on page 4 for the tefillah, the center of our service this morning.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah.
We'll go ahead and take a seat now. And we'll take a minute for a silent prayer real quick to pray the things that are in our hearts. And then we'll come back together with Oseh Shalom on page 5. So take a minute to think about the things that are in your hearts.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Sing with me, Oseh Shalom bimromav, Aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru Amen. Amen. Ve'imru Amen.
We'll take a minute now to think about our loved ones. If there's anyone that you're thinking of who is in need, if they have something that they got hurt, maybe their hearts or their bodies or their minds, and we're thinking of them right now so that we can wish them a full healing so they can be good as new. We'll think of them now. And we'll go ahead and sing the Misha Berach together at the bottom of page 5.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mikor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, everybody together, Amen.
Well, Boker Tov, everyone.
Boker Or, Rabbi.
Oh, that was a good one. Let's try it one more time. Everybody, you want to say Boker Or when I say Boker Tov? Ready? Boker Tov.
Boker Or.
Very good. There are so many of these Hebrew words that we say here at Congregation Shalom, and that's one of them. And it's good to learn those words. And here's another two that I want to teach you. Here's the first word, haknasat. Can you say haknasat?
Haknasat.
Can you say orchim?
Orchim.
Well, let's put them together. Haknasat orchim.
Haknasat Orchim.
You guys are amazing, natural Hebrew speakers. And what that means is the idea of hospitality, welcoming guests. It's so important to welcome guests into our lives and into our homes, into our synagogues. And all of these things are really important in life, to feel welcomed. How many of you have ever had a house guest? Can you put up your hand if you've had a house guest? How many of you have ever been a house guest? So when you leave the house, when I left the house when I was a kid, my mom used to always say, remember your pleases and your thank yous. So it was something that was really important to remember whenever we're in somebody else's house, so we should remember our pleases and our thank yous. Well, I want to tell you about Abraham and Sarah, our patriarch and matriarch. They were known as being truly among the greatest hospitable people. They would welcome people into their tents. Their tents had flaps that were open wide so that people, no matter which direction they were coming in, and they were open at even 4 corners, the 4 sides of their tent was open to welcome in visitors and guests from wherever they may be. And people used to come from far and wide, and they would stop along the way, and Abraham and Sarah would give them a good meal, some good conversation. They would enjoy the company of these friends. Well, once upon a time, Abraham and Sarah were sitting in their tent, and along came a couple, a man and a woman who sat down, and Abraham and Sarah invited them in like they always had for everyone else, and they sat down in the tent, and they had some food, and they had some water, and this couple was like, this food could taste a little bit better. And Abraham and Sarah were like, okay, not the politest thing to do. The water, they said it could be a little bit colder. Abraham and Sarah said, okay, not the nicest thing, not the nicest guest in the world. When Abraham and Sarah were talking to them about one God, as they talked about with everybody that they believed in one God, and they talked about their beliefs that they hold dear, this couple said, we don't believe in any of that, and we don't want to talk to you about it anyway. And Abraham and Sarah were startled. These people were being so rude and so mean, and it continued on like that over and over again. These people, no matter what Abraham and Sarah did, it wasn't good enough. They didn't like spending, Abraham and Sarah became distraught. And Abraham finally turned and said, you know what? I think you should leave. This couple walked out. Was distraught, couldn't believe it. And Abraham went for a long walk to cool off. How many of you ever gone for a walk to cool off after being angry? It's a good thing to do. And he walked along, and then all of a sudden, he heard from God. Abraham and God were good friends. And God said to Abraham, what happened to that couple that I sent you? And Abraham said, which couple? He said, the ones that sat in your tent just moments ago. And Abraham said, they were so rude, they didn't remember their pleases or their thank yous. They said everything that we did wasn't good enough. The water was too warm, the food wasn't tasty enough. They were terrible, so we sent them on their way. God said, oh, Abraham, I have tolerated that couple for 50 years. Couldn't you just tolerate that couple for a few hours? Abraham thought about it. And he thought, sometimes we need to be kind not only to people who are just like us, or people that think just like us, or people who act just like us, but sometimes we need to be kind to people who are very different from us in the way they act or the way they behave. And so Abraham went and ran after where the couple had gone and brought them back and sat them down and did his very best to make them happy. Now, couldn't always make people happy, but the important lesson that Abraham learned was the lesson of tolerance. That when we are truly welcoming people into our lives, when we are truly welcoming people, that we need to be tolerant of all kinds of differences. And Abraham learned from that experience and became even kinder and even more of a master. And Sarah and Abraham became even more of masters of haknasat orchim. Can you say that again? Haknasat orchim, of being welcoming to all those who come into their lives. So as we move forward into the week and as we move forward into the months and the years ahead, it's so important for us to both be welcoming of others, but also tolerant of all the differences that exist in our world. All right, so we are now going to turn to Elena, although, Miss Wendy, I know that you've got a great song. I know you do.
I was waiting to do it at the end for you.
You're going to do it at the end? We can do it at the end as a closing song.
I think so.
Let's do it that way. Okay, so we are going to turn now to Aleinu. It's a prayer that reminds us to be thankful for and grateful for all of the majesty that exists in our world. So if there is anyone that has had a birthday in the past week, or anybody that's having a birthday in the coming week, would you come forward and open up our art doors? Who has a birthday last week or a birthday in the coming week? Come on up. All right, come on up. You're going to open up our art doors for us, and the rest of us are going to stand. That is, as we turn to Aleinu, which can be found on page 6. Please rise now as one community as we join together in the singing of Aleinu. Okay, guys, open up your doors, place them against the wall, and will you open up the curtain? The curtain pulls on the left side. Just give it a good tug.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'tei kedula le'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. Va'anachnu koreim umishtachavim umodim Lifnei melech malachei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
That was wonderfully done, and Yom Haledet Sameach, happy birthday to all of you. Whenever we gather together, every single day, we remember those who have passed into life eternal, those who have walked this world before us, and we remember them, those who have also passed away in recent days. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we are thinking of Major Harris, as well as those for whom we commemorate the period of Shloshim, the 30-day mourning period. We think of Suzanne Salitra, Neville Sender, and Dr. Wynne Stein-Snyder. In addition to the names of those who have passed recently, we think of people who have passed away in seasons gone by. I'd like each and every one of you to take a moment and close your eyes and think of someone who has touched your life for the better, who is no longer here with us physically anymore, but is certainly here with us spiritually. Can you think of those people? It's good to think of them. It's good to call their memories into our lives, and that way they're never really fully gone. They're always with us. And so if there is a name of a yahrzeit of a loved one, someone who has passed away during this is the anniversary of their passing in years past, please say those names as I look in your direction. We think of all of our loved ones as well as those who have passed away, for all in defense of this nation and allied nations, those who've perished in the Holocaust as well. We now stand together as we recite these sacred words. So please rise. If you are sitting, please stand up, whether you're in your classrooms or at home or here. Please rise as we turn to the Kaddish prayer. Yitkadal v'yitkadash me Rabbah. B'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ulalmei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You may be seated. A couple of brief announcements for all of us on this Sunday morning. Youth choir is going to meet in the sanctuary between 11:30 and 11:50. So if you are part of the youth choir or wish to be, you can meet right here in the main sanctuary. Family services for the 5th and 6th grade that are leading. And as family services are for everyone, and they're wonderful fun, but 5th and 6th grade will be leading this service on Friday, November 5th at 6:45 p.m., and it will be featuring our youth choirs. Everything is linked together. Youth choir is going to be meeting 11:30 to 11:50 to prepare for family service. It's so fun to gather together in prayer and to be together as families. And then next Family Education Day at Rainbow Day Camp is Sunday, November 14th. From 9:30 to 11:30 a.m., there will be no Boker Tov Hebrew on that day. If you can remember to take those messages home to your parents, some of your parents might be watching on YouTube, and just remember that Rainbow Day Camp is such a fun day for us all to spend together. November 14th, 9:30 through 11:30 a.m. Now, Miss Wendy, we have been waiting to hear what that Haknasat Orchim song. Can you guys say it again? Haknasat Orchim.
Orchim.
Very good.
I'm so glad I was reading your mind.
I think you probably always are, Miss Wendy.
So true. Haknesat Orchim, come into our house, come into our house. Haknesat Orchim, come into our house, come into our house. Welcome new friends, welcome old friends, welcome family, welcome all. Come into our house, Haknesat Orchim. Come into our house, come into our house. Haknesat Orchim, come into our house, come into our house. Here's a new one. Good food, good feelings, good morning, good afternoon, good evening all. Come into our house, Haknesat Orchim. Come into our house, come into our house. Haknesat Orchim, come into our house, come into our house.
Well, Boker Tov, everyone. Thank you, Miss Wendy. Thank you, Cantor Perper. Thank you, Rabbi Pozlowski. It's so nice being with all of you. And now I know you can return to your classrooms, or if you're here for music, stay here for music. So good to be with all of you. And go Packers.
Woohoo!
How you doing?
It's all good.
Bye, sweetheart. Bye, sweethearts.
Mr. Bertram, how are you this morning? I'm all right, how are you? I'm pretty good.